2 games in the NBA Finals, and we have 2 teams that both have looked equally dominant in their subsequent wins. You would be quite insane to look at this series through these 2 games and feel like one side clearly has it over another. That said, I want to talk about the first 2 games of this series and what is worthy of note and what it could potentially mean for the series going forward. Before I continue on with this video, if you are new here and you are not subscribed yet, then please be sure to do so for more NBA content. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also, I'm going to be presenting further thoughts on game 2 of this series over on my podcast, The Shoot Around, with just Rudy today, who's the editor of this channel. If you didn't know, Mojo is out of town, but go subscribe to that podcast. We're doing talks about each game after they happen. Let's start with game 1. Now, while there are some notable chess-like moves that have happened in this series thus far that I'm going to primarily focus on, it is worthy of note that game 1 could mostly just be chalked up to a lot of crazy good shooting. No matter how you split it, 9 3-pointers in the 4th quarter is truly insane. Some of those threes were maybe a little more open than you would like, but at the end of the day, it's unrealistic for a team to shoot that well throughout a whole series. That said, I feel like the crazy shooting kind of overshadowed some of the decision making both of these teams made, and the first one that I want to talk about really stood out like a sore thumb, and that was how the Warriors defended Jason Tatum in game 1. It was problematic. It was pretty much the textbook definition of overdoing it. Even if it resulted in what they were going for, it created problems elsewhere. Basically, anytime Tatum got the ball, he had the defense's full attention. This did not necessarily manifest as double teams every time, but multiple defenders would be on edge, showing a bit to make Tatum wary and rotating early if necessary. This resulted in Tatum getting a bunch of assists on open threes, as well as a bunch of hockey assists that I couldn't find, but they were also there. Look at this play right here. While it isn't a double team on Tatum, he has every defender's attention. Curry shows a bit too much and it creates space for a smart 3. On this one, Draymond doesn't even look like he plans on doubling, but his attention is on Tatum and now White is open. Here, Looney steps up way too high getting ready for the screen, but he's so focused on defending Tatum specifically that he doesn't even consider Robert Williams and the easy lane that he gets off of this. On this drive, he pulls all of these defenders to the rim. Either Porter or Draymond need to rotate to the Pritchard 3, but they don't because they're so focused on Jason. While the extra rim protection is helpful, Draymond's presence here isn't really necessary. Wiggins probably has it, and it gives a red-hot Horford an open J. This one is also understandable. Curry is just a hair late on recovering to his man after helping Wiggins on the rotation, but still overcommit and get burned. Now, in fairness to Golden State, they did accomplish their goal of holding Jason Tatum to 3 of 17 shooting. That's fantastic. But at the same time, they valued his threat so much that it created a lot of gravity on his part. They created a ton of open shots, not just his assist, but his hockey assist. Now, another thing to be fair to Golden State is that a lot of these were open shots from not amazing shooters, but either way, you can still defend Jason Tatum well without giving up open shots, even if it's open shots to mediocre shooters. And how I know that is that's exactly what the Warriors accomplished in game 2. If you look at the box score of game 2, Jason Tatum definitely scored the ball notably better, but as much attention as his 3 for 17 night actually got, did he actually play that much better, or did he at the very least impact the game that much more significantly than he did in game 1? Because I would not say so. His playmaking wasn't as effective because he didn't get nearly as many easy assist opportunities. Some guys did just miss shots more than before, but still. And in terms of the Warriors' defense on Tatum, they were not overcommitting like before. They let Wiggins handle him in single coverage, and it worked fine. Yes, Tatum had 28 points, although 8 for 19 shooting is nothing special, but he also just had 3 assists. And the Celtics offense as a whole was significantly worse for it. And it's not even as though Jason Tatum's shot quality significantly improved from game 1. He was just making contested shots. He reached 28 points in this game. That's noteworthy. But the Celtics as a whole scored 32 less points. So I think you take that trade-off. You are trying to defend the Celtics, not Jason Tatum. And if Tatum can have a good game, but the Celtics have a bad one, you take that result every time. Again, a lot of this was just shooting that there's nothing you can do about. But for what could be done, the Warriors did, and that is an encouraging sign for them going forward. Now, weirdly enough, the most notable adjustment that the Boston Celtics made in Game 1 defensively was in relation to Draymond Green, who played horrible in Game 1. And a lot of that was chalked up to the fact that he went 2 for 12 and 0 for 3 from the line, and yes, that was definitely not ideal. However, where he struggled in a way that actually mattered for Golden State was with his playmaking. Golden State does not rely on Draymond Green to score the ball, so if he has a bad shooting night, it's really not all that important for them. If he has a good night, that's just an added bonus. They don't rely on it. But what they do rely on is his playmaking within that system. And the way the Celtics decided to defend Draymond Green mitigated his playmaking ability quite a bit, making him essentially a huge negative offensively. And here's how they did that. What they did was, well, they actually defended him. See, with Draymond Green, he knows that he's going to have an open three-pointer pretty much any time he wants it. So if he has it early in the shot clock, he's not going to take that shot, because that same shot will be there at the end of the shot clock if the Dubs cannot come up with anything better. And in the meantime, having your defender sag off of him to a comical degree makes seeing the floor and making passes a whole lot easier because there's no one blocking your view or potentially intercepting your pass. It's the lack of defense on Draymond Green that allows him to see the play developing and allows him to make a pass unburdened by any kind of defensive pressure. So the Celtics decided, fuck that. We're actually going to play up on Draymond, and when it's late in the clock and it's too late for him to get a pass off, then we'll leave him open and he can have that three-pointer. Now, I do want to properly credit Joe Verret for making this observation. I didn't notice this in Game 1, but upon seeing this, I looked for it in Game 2. And in that game, Draymond finished with 7 assists. So what changed to allow this? Well, Draymond countered. He started driving. He had an and one, a layup where he blew by Horford, who was playing too high on him, and he had a few more drives that resulted in him getting to the free throw line, and he actually made his free throws in this game, which was nice. This resulted in changing it back to the traditional sagging off, and Draymond went back to his usual output playmaking-wise. Now, this could be mitigated by putting a faster-footed defender on him than Al Horford. That's why Draymond was able to get by him a couple of times. However, you'd be committing to another matchup's defender, specifically to Draymond. And other than Kevon Looney, I wouldn't be willing to switch any defenders for the sake of guarding Draymond Green. I'm not giving Steph an easier matchup to defend Draymond. Al just needs to look out for Draymond actually trying to get by him, because I felt like Al just wasn't expecting Draymond to have that level of aggressiveness. And this is just something that I'm going to be interested in seeing play out throughout this series, because it's a very interesting defensive strategy, and I don't think it's flawless, and I think the Warriors are capable of countering it, but I also think it's something the Celtics will continue to attempt. So those are the two things that I felt like going in real depth on, but let's actually talk about some smaller things just to close the video out, although this next one's not that small, and that is Klay Thompson. We need to talk about him. Klay has been hit or miss in the playoffs, and don't let that description imply that it's been 50-50. No, Klay has been pretty bad for most of the playoffs, and it's on both sides of the floor. On defense, he is a shell of his former self, and he was already overrated on that end as it was, in my opinion. He's constantly ball watching and losing his man off ball. You would think one of the greatest off-ball threats in league history would be well aware of how much you need to pay attention to that stuff as a defender, but apparently not. And offensively, dude, cut it out with the fucking mid-range shots. He's taking so many of them with little to no space, and even when he is making them, it is a bad shot, often early in the shot clock, and it's just blatantly selfish basketball. I know there's something that Draymond said in the past about Klay that was like, he has to get his shots within the offense or else he just starts chucking and going his own way. So people's response to that is like, get him more shots within the offense. But no, Klay needs to not be fucking childish. Like, boo-hoo, I'm getting less plays ran for me, so I'm just gonna start throwing up shots in the goddamn NBA Finals. What are you, 5? Come on, man. What are we doing here? Klay Thompson is a player who claims to care a lot about winning and winning more than really anything else. And yet he's doing this shit which is negatively impacting his team. And not a negative impact he can't help, a negative impact that he is actively deciding to have. And what I know for damn sure is there is no way in hell that his shot selection hasn't been brought up internally. And the fact that it's continued tells me he's just deliberately disobeying Steve Kerr. When this was going on earlier in the series, it could be ignored, but we're in the fucking finals now. Klay needs to tighten up or Kerr needs to bench him. And yes, I am serious about that. So far in this series, Otto Porter Jr. has been more of a positive. At least he plays defense and doesn't take a million dumb shots. The on-off numbers would back me up on that too. In game 2, where the Warriors won by 19, Klay had a 0 plus-minus, meaning he was neither a net positive or net negative. Meanwhile, Otto, in just 16 minutes of action, had a plus 24. The Warriors went on a huge run the moment that Klay sat. Now, it's hard to be too mad at him because a lot of this could be chalked up to his injury, the rust associated with his injury, and adjusting to a new system and new teammates. However, there is also just some stuff that he could simply stop doing, and there's no excuse for it. In the finals, the margin for error is comically thin, and you can't allow this shit to continue. It could very well be the reason you end up losing a series. Other than that, just a few more quick things. There's no fucking reason for Daniel Theis to ever see the floor in the NBA Finals with the personnel that the Celtics have. I don't know what Ime Udoka is doing with that. If it's about giving less minutes to Robert Williams for the sake of his injury rehab, just run your rotation so either Robert or Horford are in the game at all times, which is very well possible with the minutes they get, and give Daniel Theis's minutes to Grant Williams. Another thing, it sure would be nice if Jaylen Brown could dribble, but that's not really something you can just adjust for right now. He just has to, learn how to dribble. And the last thing, when are teams gonna learn that targeting Steph Curry doesn't work? I realize I said in my Mavericks video that they should still try and target him because it makes the defense work for it, but what I said 2 weeks ago was stupid and I was an idiot. Fuck that. Stop wasting your possessions on this. While it might make the defense work harder, ultimately it doesn't work and you're just wasting offensive possessions trying to put him on an island. You take 12 seconds of the clock trying to create a mismatch and either you don't get it or you do, and the help defense prevents you from scoring off of it anyways. I realize it took me some time to be aware of this, but like shit, NBA teams should be well ahead of me and they just don't seem to be. Anyways, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for NBA content like this. And